Millennials are fleeing big cities. I think it's more than just millennials. People in general are dropping out of big cities. My personal opinion, I think it has a lot to do with the internet and digital economy. This is fascinating because it's going to have profound impacts on politics. I want to show you this, but I also want to show you this. Democrats and Republicans aren't just divided, they live in different worlds. The economies of big cities and of rural areas are completely different. Now, here's the thing. As of right now, big cities have digital and professional design, creative, that kind of work. Journalists tend to be in big cities for this reason. They tend to hold a specific ideology. As they move out into rural areas, we can see the spread. People have complained that Texas is turning blue because people are coming from California, or that Colorado is now embracing insane California policies because people are leaving LA. Young people who vote for ridiculous things leave because things get bad and then bring those policies with them. Something interesting is going to happen, though. A lot of these rural jobs, the Republican types, the red areas, they're labor jobs, right? Actually, let me just jump right in and see if I can get to the actual point here. They say, in terms of industries, there are blue industries and there are red industries. Republican districts, by contrast, hold growing shares of the nation's agriculture, mining, and low-skill manufacturing jobs, many of which do not require a college degree, have lower pay, and are more exposed to overseas competition. It's kind of good news, in a sense, that millennials are leaving big cities because the only other place they could actually go are suburbs and rural areas. And if we're actually looking at a divide that's so hard that they're completely different economies as to how the blue and red folks operate, millennials leaving might actually start to mend these issues. However, they'll probably bring their politics with them. Let's read the story about millennials from the Wall Street Journal, and then we'll come back here. Let me jump to the beginning, and we'll talk about the divide. Another really interesting fact from this Wall Street Journal story, the second one, is that the Democrats overwhelmingly represent the highest income earning districts, whereas Republicans represent the lower income earning districts. So take that for what it is. The Wall Street Journal reports, large U.S. cities lost tens of thousands of millennial and younger Gen Z residents last year, according to census figures released Thursday, that offer fresh signs of cooling urban growth. Cities with more than 500,000 people collectively lost almost 27,000 residents, aged 25 to 39 in 2018. I'm one of them. I lived in the New York area. I moved out. I'm in the burbs now. So I'm technically still in city areas, but I'm 20 or 30 minutes outside of the Philly area now. So I'm slowly moving as far away as I can. They say, according to the Wall Street Journal analysis of the figures, it was the fourth consecutive year that big cities saw the population of young adults shrink. New York, Chicago, Houston, San Francisco, Las Vegas, Washington, and Portland, Oregon were among those that lost large numbers of residents in this age group. I'd like to know the racial makeup of this group. I would like to know this. I'd be willing to bet it is overwhelmingly white. The drop in young urban residents last year was smaller than in 2017, when big cities lost nearly 54,000 residents in this age group. But the sustained decline signaled a sharp reversal from the beginning of the decade, when young adults flooded into cities and helped lead an urban revival. But I also want to stress, isn't it, a back and forth, right? You have a period where people rush into cities for cheap property and then leave for cheap property. I think the digital economy and creative work, it allows people to work from anywhere. Let's say you're a graphic designer. You don't got to come to the office. Here's what I need. Can you make it? They make it. Hey, that's good. You get paid. You could literally be in Antarctica working as a graphic designer. You wouldn't want to be. It's actually probably expensive to live there, like prohibitively expensive in the sense that you probably need some kind of government approval because there's no resources, but you get the point. You could be anywhere as long as you have internet. They say city officials say that high housing costs and poor schools are the main reason that people are leaving. Although millennials, the cohort born between 81 and 96, are marrying and having children at lower rates than previous generations. Those who do are following in the footsteps and often settling down in the suburbs. Oh no, that's what I did. Okay, I'm not super concerned about what this means. I think it's interesting. That's why I wanted to highlight it. But what I really want to focus on is this. Democrats and Republicans aren't just divided. They live in different worlds. Take everything I just told you about millennials moving out of and young Gen Xers, and now take this story into consideration, and let's read it. The two parties represent radically different slices of the American economy. This is really scary to me. They say America's political polarization is almost complete. Its two main political parties increasingly represent two different economies, and they barely overlap. Democrats can be found in educated cities and suburbs where professional jobs are plentiful. Republicans live in working class and rural communities, home to agriculture and low-skill manufacturing. And I think that's why I fall where I do, right? I grew up in the city, but I grew up really poor. So you take these semi-affluent young, white progressives. Their parents make more than six figures. They went to college. They got a degree. They might have student loan debt. But of course, they're going to hold this ideology. And that's going to be largely... Also, let me say this. To better state that point I was going to make. They live in big cities with infrastructure, internet infrastructure, and closer proximity to each other. So they spread their ideas much more quickly than those who live in the middle of nowhere. If you live in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have weaker internet and less people around you. And so your ideas are likely to be centralized. You'll probably watch Fox News. You'll probably watch some select YouTubers. If you live in a big city, there's information traveling much more quickly between people and the internet. That fast flow is likely why we see the left veering super far to the left, and the right is kind of teetering around where it's always been, with moderates sort of being ripped apart. But let's move on. I think the big part here is, I don't know how we function if the economy is split in half. And that's what I was really scared about. Parallel economies. And I talked about this before. When you start having businesses emerge that cater to only one side or the other. We now have we're at the point now where industries are being run either by Republicans or Democrats. What would happen if every Republican said we are no longer going to deliver to cities? That would make a huge impact because they're doing manufacturing and agriculture. What happens when all of a sudden New York can't get its avocados? Yeah, good question. They say, let's take a look at GDP, or the value of goods and services produced, to understand how the two parties are divided. These days, Democratic House districts are doing substantially better. 2/3 of the nation's GDP comes from those areas, with Republican districts making up the rest. This is not population distribution. This is wealth distribution. Lo and behold, gross domestic product is overwhelmingly held by Democrat districts. Advertisement. There's nothing there. This is striking because the Republican share of GDP is shrinking. Even though the party controls more House districts than a decade ago, those districts account for less economic activity. And this plays into the point and why I brought up millennials leaving cities. The issue here is the digital economy. Manufacturing dries up. Learn to code, they say. Seriously, a lot of people don't. But these digital jobs are taking over, which means cities are going, at first, people are going to be doing creative work. I think what we may end up seeing happen, as millennials leave to more rural and suburban areas, they bring their politics with them. And they're going to either get absorbed by the Republicans, meaning the Republicans will continue to dominate these areas, and the cities will lose a lot of their power, or these people will bring their policies with them. That's the point I wanted to highlight. If these jobs, the new digital economy, allows for people to move wherever they want, let's say you have 100 Republicans and 10 Democrats move in. Those Republicans are going to outvote those. The Republicans will outvote the Democrats, which means the city lost a piece of its voting power relative to rural areas. But if too many people come to your area, it'll flip blue. Let's move on. Check this out. You can see the change most dramatically by looking at House districts ranked by their contribution to GDP. A decade ago, Democrats represented House districts with both the most and least economic output. This is really fascinating to me. Look, around 10 or less, you can see Democrats represent them. Republicans were not as poor. And $90 billion or more. Check this out. Now, it's flipped. Republicans tend to be in the lower economic GDP area. And look at this, $90 billion or more has overwhelmingly shifted Democrat. It's the rich people. I've talked about the identity politics stuff, and I really do think it's a way to, it was a way to destroy the 99% movement, Occupy Wall Street, by telling poor people the issue wasn't money, the issue was race. The paycheck picture, check this out. Republicans, their income has gone down, the paycheck picture. Household income tells a similar story. Democrat income has skyrocketed. Republican income has dropped. Once again, this is what we can see. So I'm going to try and get through all of this. What's behind the split? Blue industries. Democrats represent districts with the biggest cluster of professional jobs. That includes tech hubs around Silicon Valley and Boston. Nearly 3/4 of jobs in digital or professional industries are in Democratic districts. That's the point. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. I do try to keep these short, so I'll say this. What ends up happening as the internet allows anybody to live anywhere, we may see a flip. We may see cities are shrinking. That's a fact. That's the main point I wanted to bring up. Cities are shrinking. They're losing millennials. So is Facebook. And this is going to have a huge, profound impact come 2020. They say, look at the data another way. This chart shows where industries cluster. And the pattern becomes even clearer. Share of jobs in digital and professional industries in 2008. 3 to 3.3% over is red, but 15% of more of the share of digital jobs, it's Democrat. Share of low skill manufacturing jobs. Here's a good picture of why Trump won. All of these low skill manufacturing regions, Trump won them. Let me ask you this, because this might go longer than I wanted to. How did the Democrats lose the you know what? There you go. You see this red? That's the working class. Those are the low-skill manufacturing jobs. These are the laborers. And the Democrats do not represent them. I'm going to wrap it up here, okay? Let me try and bring this together, because I do try to keep these shorter. It's a really interesting story. But, I think I've made the main point I could. Right now, we're seeing something fascinating where Trump played to those who lost their jobs, the manufacturing centers, and Hillary Clinton didn't. Because of the race politics, they've created a strange divide where Democrats are sacrificing the working class who tend to be white and in middle America. With a change in how our economy is functioning, I think we're going to see millennials end up in very Republican areas. They may try and change things. They probably won't be able to. If, 100 millennials move into a big Republican area and they're Democrats, the Republicans are going to outvote them and they will be absorbed and eventually their votes just won't have an impact. This could spell big change coming to 2020. Trump is I think he's going to win. Take everything I told you. Let me try and bring it together and just say 2020 is for Trump because of where we're at so far and everything we know. But everything I'm showing you, that's 2024. I'm done. It's kind of confusing. I tried to figure it out. Forgive me if it was a little all over the place, but there you go. One more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.